What's good, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today we're going to talk about John Gotti, the Teflon Don. Now, I put together something, and I'm going to play it. What's up, Cindy? How are you? Thank you for joining me. I know I'm a little late. I've been so damn busy. It's been insane. I've been working nonstop. I did 2 interviews today. I'm going to be dropping some very soon. I got some major interviews done. They're in the record book, so they're on their way. Partners in crime, what's up, man? How are you? Thank you for joining me today. I know a lot of people are anticipating this one, John Gotti. And I got a little treat for you guys. I made a little extended version. So, you guys will see. But without any further ado, let's get into it.
Son of Italian immigrants, John Gotti, 1940 to 2002, was born in the Bronx, New York, and grew up in a life of organized crime. After serving time for hijacking trucks and a revenge slaying, Gotti wrested control of the Gambino crime family in 1985. Dubbed the Teflon Don after avoiding punishment for federal racketeering charges, he was known for his showy displays of swagger. He was arrested on a variety of charges in December 1990, and found guilty on multiple counts following the testimony of former associate Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano. Gotti died in 2002 from throat cancer at a medical center for federal prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. Early life. Born October 27, 1940, in New York City. Gotti's mother, Fanny, and father, J. Joseph Gotti, were both Italian immigrants. John Gotti was the 5th of 13 children in a family whose only income came from their father's unpredictable work as a day laborer. Gotti and his family moved frequently before settling in East New York, an area known at the time for its youth gang activity. By the age of 12, Gotti was working as an errand boy for an underground club in the neighborhood run by Carmine Fatico. Fatico was a captain in the local Gambino family, the largest of the 5 organized crime families in New York City. Through his activities with the club, Gotti met Aniello Delacroce, who became his lifelong mentor. Gotti soon became the leader of a gang called the Fulton Rockaway Boys, a group known for their frequent robberies and carjackings. When he was 14, Gotti's toes were crushed as he tried to steal a cement mixer. The accident gave the mobster to be his trademark gait, and earned him another incident on his list of petty crimes. He was considered a bully and constant discipline problem at Franklin K. Lane High School until he dropped out at 16. By the age of 18, the police department ranked Gotti as a low-level associate in the Fatico crew. Between 1957 and 1961, Gotti pursued a life of crime on a full-time basis. His arrest record included street fighting, public intoxication, and car theft. By his 21st birthday, Gotti had been arrested 5 times, but served little jail time. On March 6, 1962, Gotti married 17-year-old Victoria DiGiorgio. At the time of their marriage, DiGiorgio had already given birth to their first child, Angela, and was pregnant with their second. In the early years of their marriage, the couple fought constantly and separated numerous times. Gotti briefly tried his hand at legitimate jobs for the sake of his family, first as a presser in a coat factory, and then as an assistant to a truck driver. His crime-free life was brief, however, and Gotti was jailed twice by 1966. When he and his family made the move to Ozone Park in Queens, New York, the budding criminal quickly became a major player in the Gambino hijacking crew. In 1968, Gotti served his first major sentence when the FBI charged he and his two accomplices with committing cargo thefts near John F. Kennedy Airport. All three men were convicted of hijacking and sentenced to 3 years in prison. While Gotti served his time, the Fatico crew moved from East New York to a storefront near Gotti's home in Queens. The group's headquarters was disguised as a non-profit organization called the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club. After his release from prison in 1971, Gotti was designated as the temporary leader of Fatico's gang while the captain faced loansharking charges. Mafia Man. In May of 1973, while Gotti was captain of Fatico's crew, he committed his first murder, the shooting death of Jimmy McBratney, a rival gang member who kidnapped and murdered a member of the Gambino family. Gotti was sent to exact revenge, but he was less than discreet, leaving multiple witnesses at the scene of the crime. Gotti was arrested in 1974 after several bystanders identified him in a photo lineup. At his trial 3 years later, Gotti cut a deal with the court. In return for a plea of attempted manslaughter, he served only 4 years in prison. In 1976, the head of the Gambino family, Carlo Gambino, died. Gambino chose to leave his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano, in charge of the family. In a gesture of goodwill, Castellano allowed Delacroce to remain the family's underboss, giving him control over 10 of the 23 Gambino crews. When Gotti returned from prison in 1977, Delacroce promoted the mobster to captain of the Bergen crew. In March of 1980, personal tragedy hit the Gotti family when neighbor John Favara hit 12-year-old Frank Gotti with his car after the boy steered his bike into traffic. The death was ruled accidental, but witnesses say DiGiorgio later attacked Favara with a metal baseball bat, sending him to the hospital. Favara decided not to press charges. According to witnesses, Favara endured 4 months of death threats until July 28, 1980, the day he was clubbed over the head and shoved into a van. His body was never found. Gotti and his family were on vacation in Florida at the time of their neighbor's disappearance, and deny any knowledge of his whereabouts. By the early 1980s, John Gotti's prominence in the Gambino family had earned unwanted attention from mob boss Castellano. He considered Gotti's $30,000 a night gambling habit a liability, and he also disapproved of the Bergen captain's unpredictable behavior. Gotti's activities also caught the eye of federal agents who, unbeknownst to the mobster and his crew, installed surveillance equipment in the Bergen Club in 1981. The Teflon Don. In 1985, the FBI had gathered enough evidence to place Gotti and Delacroce under federal indictments for racketeering. Other associates were indicted on heroin trafficking charges. The drug charges infuriated Castellano, who punished illegal drug dealing with a penalty of death. As captain, Gotti knew he would be held responsible for the transgressions of his crew. To smooth over the situation with Castellano, Gotti asked Delacroce to speak to the boss on his behalf. But before an understanding could be reached, Delacroce died of cancer. All goodwill between Castellano and Gotti dissolved when the boss didn't attend Delacroce's funeral. Gotti saw the behavior as disrespectful and, according to later testimony, he decided to take action. 2 weeks later, on December 16, 1985, Castellano was gunned down while eating at the Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan. Gotti was made boss soon after. By August of 1986, John Gotti had become something of a local hero and icon in his Howard Beach neighborhood. When it came time to face trial for the racketeering charges, Gotti and the other defendants were acquitted of their crimes. FBI officials later discovered that the jury foreman fixed the verdict. It was a crushing defeat for law enforcement officials, and Gotti became the mob's symbol of invincibility, earning the name Teflon Don because charges against him just wouldn't stick. Imprisonment and death. The FBI then turned the conviction of Gotti into an organizational crusade. After pressuring the Gambino family's new underboss, Sammy Gravano, into testifying against Gotti, the mob leader was finally convicted of murder and racketeering on April 2, 1992. It is estimated that, While John Gotti acted as boss, the Gambino family made more than $500 million in revenue from illegal activities such as gambling, drug trafficking, extortion, and stock fraud. As a repeat offender, Gotti was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole and sent to federal prison in Marion, Illinois. According to federal prosecutors, after his imprisonment he appointed his eldest son, John Jr. Gotti, as acting boss of the Gambino family. In 1999, his son pled guilty to racketeering charges and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. John Gotti remained in jail until June 10, 2002, when he died in the federal prison hospital from complications with head and neck cancer.
I hope you guys like that. I mean, I don't agree with everything that's in that, but it's what's out there. I appreciate everyone that takes the time to watch this show. Tammy, how are you? Ronnie, what's up, bro? Cindy. Louis, the Lions, what's up, bro? How are you? How is everybody? How was you guys' weekend, your Memorial Day weekend? Mine was pretty good. I've been taking trips left and right everywhere. I've been all over the place. I have so much footage I'm going to share with you guys very soon. I've been working at editing and getting things done so you guys can see what I've been up to. Thanks for sharing. Had a great week. An eventful weekend. I had a really good week. It's been pretty prosperous, I might say. I got a lot of interviews done, quite a bit. I think I got 5 or 6 done in the last 2 days. So you guys will see. I got to edit some of them and I'll be pumping those out. And you guys will see what direction I've been going in. Shout out to everyone who's been a guest on my show recently. I'm going to be going live tonight. I was supposed to go live last night, but I was busy editing. It's a lot of work. It's kind of tedious. You have to listen to the video over and all this stuff. It's a lot of work. But I hope you guys like those the automated ones. I'm going to share those from time to time. I got another one I can drop with you guys right now. So this one is about Joey Merlino. Let's get into it.
Merlino became the John Gotti of Philadelphia, and why many believe he still is. Flamboyant gangster skinny Joey Merlino took over virtually all organized crime in Philadelphia after the city's bloody mob wars in the 1990s, but after a pair of recent convictions, he claims to be reformed. Joey Merlino came of age in an era where the mafia in Philadelphia was decimated, taking full advantage of the power vacuum to assume control of the family. And in order to reach the underworld, Merlino wasn't afraid to be downright brazen. Philadelphia residents were long used to their local mobsters killing each other left and right, but everyone was still shocked on August 31, 1993, when a drive-by shooting orchestrated by Merlino took place between mobsters right during morning rush hour traffic on the busy Schuylkill Expressway. And this was just one episode in the all-out mob war that put Joey Merlino at the top of the Philadelphia family. From drive-by shootings to openly courting the press, Joey Merlino was always brash and never willing to play by the rules. This is the wild story of Joey Merlino's rise and fall. Joey Merlino, born into the mob. Joey Merlino's father Salvatore Merlino. Temple University Digital Collections. Joey Merlino's father Salvatore Merlino, left, and mobster Nicky Scarfo, after being arrested in 1963 on murder charges. Joey Merlino was born into a mob household on March 13, 1962, with his father, Salvatore Chucky Merlino, once underboss for the notoriously violent boss Nicky Scarfo, and his uncle Lawrence Yogi Merlino, a capo under Scarfo in the 1980s. Entering the family business, Merlino conducted himself with an air of entitlement, and he picked up his first conviction for an Atlantic City stabbing incident when he was just 20. In 1990, Merlino was sentenced to 4 years for conspiring to steal $350,000 in an armored car robbery and would make a life-changing pact in prison. In Pennsylvania's McKean Correctional Institution, Merlino met Ralph Natale, a long-standing Philadelphia mob associate, currently serving a 16-year sentence. In the young and charismatic Merlino, Natale, nearing 60, recognized a golden opportunity, and the pair started plotting to take over the Philadelphia family from incumbent boss John Staxx. With Scarfo imprisoned, Staxx had received the blessing of the New York Mafia Commission to head the family. Merlino and the new wave of South Philly mobsters dubbed Young Turks by the media believed Staxx had no place on the Philadelphia throne and that they could do better. Merlino's associates, and boyhood friends, Michael Cincaglini, Stephen Mazzoni, George Borghese, Gaetano Tommy Horsehead Scafidi, and Martin Angelino would take on the Staxx faction for control of the family, and if they succeeded, Natale would be the boss with Merlino as his underboss. On January 29, 1992, Merlino's faction struck first with the killing of Felix Bocchino, before Merlino was even paroled in April of that year. Staxx, recognizing the tenuous situation, sought to appease Merlino and his best friend Michael Cincaglini by inducting them into the family in September 1992. Becoming a made man at the age of 30 didn't instill loyalty in Merlino. Instead, the promotion gave him the prestige he needed to act even more boldly, and soon bullets were flying again in the city of brotherly love. On August 5, 1993, Merlino survived a drive-by assassination attempt taking 4 bullets in the leg and buttocks, on a South Philadelphia street corner, while Cincaglini died from a shot to the chest. On August 31, 1993, Merlino's faction retaliated with their own infamous drive-by shooting on Staxx and his son while they were driving on the Schuylkill Expressway in Philadelphia rush hour traffic. Staxx escaped uninjured and his son survived a shot to the jaw. The tit-for-tat killings continued with Merlino escaping death, as a remote-controlled bomb under his car failed to go off several times. Boss of the Philadelphia Mafia. In November 1993, Joey Merlino was sent back to prison for a year for parole violations, providing temporary reprieve from the battlefield. Then in 1995, the problem took care of itself when Staxx was convicted and sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences for directing the bloody campaign against Merlino's mob faction. Natale and Merlino then took over, with the Philadelphia/South Jersey family having deteriorated into a dysfunctional mess, resembling a street gang rather than the smooth and sophisticated criminal enterprise of former boss Angelo Bruno's day. Natale's tenure as Philadelphia's boss was less than effective. There were even whispers that Natale, who wasn't even made when he plotted to take over, had paid for his induction into the family. By 1998, Merlino, who had happily accepted the underboss position knowing the feds would target Natale, had assumed control, cutting Natale off. Merlino had support in the family through the older Joe Ligamby, who was recently out of prison. Ligamby, a protege of Merlino's father Chucky, had in turn become an uncle figure to Merlino, and an important ally. Skinny Joey Merlino. Joey Merlino/Instagram. Even when he was boss of the Philadelphia family, Joey Merlino never shied away from media attention. In the boss's chair, Merlino relished the limelight as a hard-partying celebrity gangster, and the media even dubbed him the John Gotti of Passyunk Avenue, after South Philadelphia's main drag, according to America magazine. Merlino would throw annual Thanksgiving and Christmas parties in South Philadelphia as a man of the people, but he also gambled to excess while refusing to pay for his losses. Merlino seemed untouchable, or at least believed he was, but by mid-1999, he was indicted in a drug trafficking conspiracy, with the charges later expanded to racketeering and ordering or approving several murders. Joey Merlino's conviction and retirement from the mob. Ralph Natale had been indicted for financing drug deals the year before and was still bitter over Merlino having cut him off, so he became the first American mafia boss to become a government witness, testifying how he and Merlino conspired to take over the family in the early 1990s. Merlino's ensuing trial was the result of a 10-year investigation that featured an extraordinary 943 pieces of evidence and 50 witnesses, according to ABC News. The FBI had hoped Merlino would never see the light of day again. However, he was eventually acquitted of all 3 counts of murder. Merlino was sentenced to 14 years for racketeering crimes, though, responding in typical Merlino fashion, saying, "Ain't bad. Better than the death penalty." After 12 years, Merlino was released in 2011 and sent to a Florida halfway house for 6 months followed by supervised release. Then moving to Boca Raton, Merlino denied any current involvement in the Philadelphia Mafia, while working as a maitre d' in a restaurant bearing his name, from 2014 until it closed in 2016. Merlino had to then serve 4 months for associating with a Philadelphia mob pal, and on August 4, 2016, Merlino was one of 46 people arrested in a wide-sweeping RICO indictment, accused of taking part in a massive medical fraud scheme in Florida, as well as illegal gambling. Merlino eventually received a 2-year sentence, and in October 2019, was granted an early supervised release. When Merlino was imprisoned for 12 years, Joe Legamby had taken over stabilizing the family, with court documents from 2020 confirming Legamby as Philadelphia's consigliere, but was Merlino still the real boss of the family? As of today, the FBI believes that Joey Merlino still runs Philadelphia's crime family from afar through a series of intermediaries and street bosses. But has he actually gone straight, or is it one big con?
What's good, everybody? I hope you guys like those. And there's a lot more to come. I'm going to be doing a show about 1%ers. I got like a block of shows I'm going to do about that. I got interviews coming up to go along with that. I got some mafia interviews that I'm going to be dropping with some authors and some other associates and people like that. I have some major mob related news. What's up, Eric? How you doing, man? Down neck, how are you? Louis the Lion, thank you so much for that $10, man. I really appreciate that. Anyone who donates towards the channel, that money goes right back into the content. So if you guys want to donate, you can donate through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all that good stuff. And I really appreciate it. My Cash App is Bill Staxx 2021. And I have a lot of good stuff to come. I just got some interviews done with, I don't even want to say yet, because I'm just going to drop it. And you guys will be like, oh, shit. So I do got some major mafia-related news coming in about a week. And I got something to show you along with it when I drop it. So you guys are going to be like, wow. And I will be the only channel out here with this type of information. You will not find it anywhere else. And I promise you, when I drop this information, other people will jump right on it. I guarantee you. Bob, what's up? How are you, man? I'm really good. Things are great. I meant to say, bro. Hell yeah, man. Grinding day and night at this video stuff. I'm trying to bring you guys some real content, some good stuff. And I'm going to upload one very shortly, probably within an hour after this show. I'll upload one and get it planned out for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. Tammy, thank you. Good job, Staxx. You know, you always have my support. Much respect, my friend. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. Everyone who supports me, I support you right back. And thank you a lot for that donation, man. It means a lot. Anyone that donates, I really appreciate it. You guys will see. I'm gonna be dropping some major. I cannot wait to show you guys. Matter of fact, let me see if I could get someone to join me real quick while I'm here. Might as well. Thank you, Down Neck, man. I appreciate that. With the $4.99, show your show, Staxx. I love your show, Staxx. I like when it carries on too. You're a good guy, Staxx. Thank you, man. Shout out to Carrie Van Diver. I appreciate that, man. It's raining hard. I'm just chilling in the car. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to drop one more of them videos for you guys. So I got plenty. Let's see. Let's do one on this guy.
Had $150 million worth of treasure that still hasn't been located. When we think of hidden treasure, we often imagine pirates following the X on a map. As it turns out, one New York gangster really did manage to hide his enormous wealth below ground. Even wilder is that experts still haven't found it to this day. The man was Dutch Schultz, a criminal who made his wealth during the Prohibition era by standing up to the mafia and the Irish mob. The story sounds like it's straight out of Hollywood, but it's real. Not the easiest start in life. Dutch Schultz was born Simon Flagenheimer in 1901, a year after his parents wed in Manhattan. His sister was born in 1904 and shortly thereafter, their father Herman left the family. Simon's mother later wrote that Herman had died in 1910, so the details of his departure are ambiguous. Either way, it was tough on young Simon, who would vehemently deny that his father had left him. To top it off, the family struggled to survive without Herman's income. He dropped out of school in 8th grade. Simon only made it through the 8th grade, at which point he dropped out to help support his family. He worked as a feeder and pressman for a handful of companies from 1916 to 1919. One of these companies was Schultz Trucking, which may be connected to Simon's eventual nickname, Dutch Schultz. He left the company to work at a mobster-owned nightclub, which is where Dutch's legal troubles began. He started by robbing craps games, trading in work for burglaries. Dutch's life of crime had officially began as soon as he became a legal adult. Once Dutch's habit of robbing from craps games got old, he graduated to full-blown burglaries. The young man's hard life was clearly catching up with him. Even worse was that his rebellious nature only increased as he continued down the road of criminal behavior. It was only a matter of time before he got caught, but that didn't stop him, and neither did jail time. His first booking. Dutch was caught red-handed before he even made it to 19 years old. The young man was arrested upon breaking into an apartment, and landed himself a jail cell at what is today called Roosevelt Island. The angsty Dutch was such a wreck at the jail that he ended up being transferred to a work farm on Long Island. The move didn't even remotely tame the budding criminal. Dutch got his sentence extended 2 months for trying to escape. The start of Prohibition. While Dutch was locked up, the Volstead Act was kicking in, beginning the Prohibition era. The act carried out the 18th Amendment by granting federal and states the authority to ban the production, sale, and transport of intoxicating liquors. By the time Dutch got out of jail, bootleggers were already scheming to benefit from the new laws. The restrictions meant that demand would be through the roof, and Dutch was eager to jump on the bandwagon. Combining employment and crime. When Dutch got out of prison, he returned to the job he had before the mobster-owned nightclub, Schultz Trucking. The company not only didn't mind his criminal record, but they actually would benefit from it. With Prohibition officially in full effect, Schultz Trucking became a means through which liquor and beer could be smuggled from Canada. Dutch's employment there put him right in the middle of the criminal hub, setting up the trajectory of his life. leaving Schultz Trucking. It was only a matter of months before Dutch left Schultz Trucking due to an argument. Dutch was known for his huge temper and ruthless attitude, so it only makes sense that he stormed out of the building and into the arms of their competitors. Around the time Dutch turned 19 years old, he was already working as a bouncer at a speakeasy in the Bronx. This wasn't just any speakeasy, though. It was owned by the notorious gangster Joey Merlino, making an impression on the gangsters. Dutch's ruthlessness wasn't lost on his new gangster boss. The young man proved himself when he handled a group of rival bootleggers. The ordeal impressed Joey Merlino so much that he made Dutch a partner. The pair began expanding their bootlegging business around the Bronx. Together, Dutch and Joey were even more of a force to be reckoned with, enabling them to stand up to those dominating the areas they wanted to expand into. As a result, Dutch started to gain wealth. 10 of 25 photos in gallery copyright Keystone/Getty Images. The Five Families and the Irish Mob. Dutch and Joey formed an operation that was large and threatening enough to stand up to the famous five families of the Mafia. Their increased dominance enabled Dutch and Joe to move into Manhattan, but there was a problem. The Irish Mob was already running bootlegging operations out of Manhattan, and they weren't too keen on the idea of sharing the business. Dutch prepared for the battle by buffing up their crew with armed thugs. 11 of 25 photos in gallery copyright Getty Images. Losing his partner. Dutch's world turned upside down when the leader of the Irish Mob, Jack Legs Diamond, decided to retaliate. In 1928, after several years of running a successful bootlegging business, Joey Merlino was shot at a speakeasy. Though he was coherent enough to make it through the attack, Joey passed away shortly afterward due to infection. The infuriated Dutch had lost another man in his life, and he was out for revenge. As the new leader, Dutch ordered his men to fight back. Diamond survived an attack. 2 gunmen showed up to take down Jack Legs Diamond. Though they succeeded, they didn't expect that Jack would actually survive the attack. The mobster was wise enough to know he had to get out of town. Jack headed to Europe, where he eventually was taken out by gunmen in Albany. In their leader's absence, the Irish Mob backed away, surrendering their territory to Dutch's operation. The gangster was officially one of the biggest bosses in New York. Trouble within the operation. Dutch wasn't just tough on enemies. He ran a tight ship with strict rules that weren't up for debate. One of these rules was that his men had fixed salaries, rather than getting a commission. The payment arrangement was unique compared to other mobs, and that didn't sit well with one of Dutch's enforcers, Vincent College. Now that Dutch was without a partner, Vincent saw it as the perfect time to demand he be promoted. Vincent broke off from the pack. At this point, Dutch was right where he wanted to be and wasn't going to compromise his power for anyone. When he rejected Vincent as partner, the enforcer left the group in an angry rage. He decided to start his own operation that inevitably went head-to-head with Dutch's men. Of course, Dutch ended up winning. With yet another rival out of the way, Dutch was able to hone in on his illegal business, raking in millions per month. Dutch's bootlegging business was huge, especially with so much competition out of the way. The gangster was reportedly bringing in $20 million a year. Mind you, this was around the year 1930. Accounting for inflation, that cash would have been closer to $310 million a year today. With so much money coming in so quickly, Dutch had to figure out what to do with it. The gangster had overcome so many obstacles that he seemed to know what he was doing. A new source of income. Though Dutch was making an absurd amount of money through bootlegging, it eventually came to an end. The 21st Amendment went into effect in 1933, marking the end of Prohibition. This meant that Dutch's operation was rendered useless. He had made so much money at that point that the gangster could have easily walked away. Instead, he decided to go even deeper into his life of crime. The gangster rolled up his sleeves and found 2 new ways to make money. Rigging the lottery. Dutch Schultz had the connections to pull off rigging the Harlem Numbers racket, a lottery that occurred daily in Belmont Park. With the help of a mathematician, Dutch was able to predict which numbers would win. Dutch gained control of the racket and ensured that people didn't win as often as they could have. As a result, he walked away with a steady stream of income and participants had no idea they were being ripped off. Extorting restaurants. Dutch found another way to bring in more money by founding a fake restaurant employer association. He partnered up with a fellow New York gangster to make deals with local restaurant unions. Dutch would then force the restaurant owners to join his association, or else they would receive backlash from the unions, including strikes and stink explosive attacks. Backed into a corner, the owners would join and have to pay dues that further increased Dutch's massive wealth. Investigated for tax evasion. After more than a decade of building a criminal empire, things finally caught up with Dutch Schultz when he was investigated for tax evasion. The rebellious mastermind had yet another obstacle to face, but he wasn't going down without a fight. His first trial ended in a hung jury, which is thought to be because Dutch bribed the jurors. The second time around, he came up with a more intricate plan to get out of conviction. Pretending to be the nice guy. Dutch managed to turn his rough and intimidating persona completely around before the court. He donated to charities and businesses to give the illusion of being a good citizen. The scheme worked and he was acquitted. But despite what the courts said, the mayor wasn't buying it for a second. He ordered that Dutch be arrested if he ever returned to New York City, so the criminal relocated to Newark and continued his criminal deeds from there. One prosecutor wouldn't let it go. Throughout Dutch's tax evasion trial, there was one powerful prosecutor who aggressively went after him. The man was Thomas Dewey, and his power infuriated Dutch. He wanted the lawyer gone, but even Dutch's men knew this was too risky. Someone as powerful and well-known as Thomas Dewey couldn't just be taken out. It was a recipe for disaster, but Dutch wouldn't accept it. When his men tried to talk some sense into him, the gangster just threatened to do the deed himself. Turned on by his own men. Dutch's men knew that if he went down, then they all could go down. The gang wouldn't let that happen, and they knew all the power had made Dutch impossible to reason with. As a result, they came up with a plan. The group all congregated at Palace Chop House to, supposedly, talk about Thomas Dewey. As soon as Dutch went to the bathroom, though, one of the men followed him in and shot him to death. Where's the money? Before Dutch died, he had prepared for his tax investigation by hiding a huge chunk of his money. He buried hundreds of millions of dollars. Now that the man was gone, those remaining had to wonder where the cash went. The one person who knew that answer was Dutch's bodyguard. The pair drove to Catskill, New York to bury a chest full of treasures. In true pirate style, it included gold, diamonds, war bonds, and $1,000 bills. $150 million somewhere out there. Though the bodyguard was with Dutch at the time, no one has been able to recover the chest since they buried it. What's even wilder is that the items are worth an estimated $150 million today. Reportedly, the bodyguard sketched a map to the treasure before he passed away, and gave it to gangster Martin Prompier. If that was the case, it could help to explain why no one has been able to find the buried chest. Still intriguing people. It's also possible that Dutch had liquidated the treasure prior to his death because he didn't trust his men. Despite this theory, many people are fascinated at the thought of such an enormous treasure just waiting out there to be dug up. For almost a century, treasure hunters have searched the Catskills in search of the long-lost diamonds, gold, and $1,000 bills. Only time will tell if the famous fortune will ever be discovered and who the lucky finder might be.
What do you guys think of that story? And where is the money? Who's got the money? Where did he leave it? $100 million, $100,000 bills. They said it was $1,000 bills in a chest with gold and silver. Where is it? People are still looking for it. Insane. So I have a bunch of stories like that I put together for you guys, and I'm going to be dropping them every now and again for you. There's a bunch of them. Like, it goes on and on. But I have some really interesting ones coming very soon, and they're not like that. They're from the people themselves. You guys will see I'm doing some 1%er videos soon. I got shows about the mafia, you know, different types of shows. I'm interviewing some actors. Shout out to Ciro DiPaggio for getting the Mob King out there for distribution. You guys can order it now. I think it's on all streaming platforms pretty much. You can order it. So go check that out and support Mob King. And I hope you guys like this type of content. If you do, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And thank you, everyone who donated. I really appreciate it. And if you want to donate, you can donate through Cash App at Bill Staxx 2021. And all the donations that I get, they go right back towards the show so I can make this better for you guys. And trying to bring you the best content I can. And people won't touch my content. I think I've been proving myself. And it's only going to get better. I'm just getting started. So remember, hit the like button, share the video. If you don't like it, good. Hit the dislike button. But remember, don't be a bitch, because we don't like that.